Alrighty. Well, welcome. Happy Monday. Mike is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Introduction of new members and guests. Would anyone like to introduce themselves besides Julie? Julie, we'll let you introduce yourself when you take over.
Bill, did you want to introduce Ben?
We have a new guest on the call, Ben Bailey, who's a new sales rep here at Lost Coast Communications, who's not only our sales rep, but he's also in a current performance at the Ferndale rep and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So we want Ben to kind of, he's been walking the streets of Fortuna, talking to a lot of people and this and that. So I figured he'd better hop on this call and say hello.
Excellent. Well, welcome. Are you in the Noises Off production, Ben?
Yeah, I'm in Noises Off.
Wow.
So we opened last week and we had a really good opening week and everyone's been safe as far as the pandemic's concerned. We've, masking and off stage, but we've had a lot of fun. I think it's the first show in they did Hamlet like a little while ago, but that got like one weekend up like when the pandemic first was starting and then it got canceled. So I think this is the first opening live performance in Humboldt County with a community theater since the pandemic started. So it's really exciting to get back on stage and get back on stage with all the community here. And it's been a blast. It's a fun show too. It's a farce. It's Noises Off. So it's just it's like this time of of where we're at in the world. It's good to have a show where you can laugh and just have a good time and hear people laugh in the same room. So it's been a blast. And that's a little plug. Come see Ferndale Reps Noises Off. We run until the February 20th. And we're up every weekend, so tickets are online, but some people have been buying tickets in person, waiting until the day, playing it safe, and you can't blame them just because you never know. But come see the show if you like theater. We're back in person.
Great.
And thanks for having me too. It's
thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Everyone else looks pretty familiar. So I'll let Renee go ahead and do your chamber announcements.
Great. So I have a few, so I'll run through them pretty quickly. We still have some free PPE here at the office, surgical masks. Just give us a call if you would like some for your staff. This Sunday is the chamber music benefit for the Eureka Symphony. The concert starts at 3 p.m. and will be held at the Eureka Women's Club. The fire department is holding a community CPR/AED, that's the automatic external defibrillator, training class on February 7th from 6 to 9 p.m. If you're interested, please contact Carmen Glass at the fire station. Coast Central Credit Union just announced their spring round of its community investment program is now open. Grant applications will be accepted until February 28th. The grants, I think they have 100,000 total fund to give away, and they'll accept a single grant up to 25,000. But usually typical grants usually range between 3,500 and 9,000, sometimes a little bit more. You can get more information at coastccu.org and search under their community tab and then their giving section, and that will be where you can find more information and the application. Fortuna Sunrise Rotary will host their Drive Up Pork and Cork fundraiser on February 12th from 4 to 7:30 p.m. at the Fortuna Fire Station. Tickets are available online at fortunasunriserotary.org or from your favorite Sunrise Rotarian. Friday the 18th, we will have a ribbon cutting for brand new business Humboldt Brow Gal. That will be at 2:00, and there will be an open house celebration following the ribbon cutting. We'll have some more details on that as we get closer to the date. State of the City breakfast is currently on hold for the in-person event. We had originally scheduled February 24th as a hopeful date, but it's looking less and less likely. We are trying to figure out another way to get this vital information out to the community. So we'll keep you guys posted in the coming weeks. And then finally, next week, we welcome Connie Stewart from what's now called Cal Poly Humboldt. She is going to talk about broadband and workforce development and probably hit on them now being a polytechnic and their new name change. So join us for that next Monday at noon. And with that, I will turn it back to Bailey and see if John Gullen wants to tell us about the blood bank.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, John, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. Just wanted to stop by and see what's going on in Fortuna. But I also wanted to just let everybody know that we're in need of type O negative and O positive red blood cells. One of the things that's been happening is that traditionally we've always had a backup somewhere where we could pick up the phone and find somebody in the country who had more blood than they needed. And we kind of had that as a backup. Right now, because of COVID and the number of people who are out between donors and blood center staff, basically there's a nationwide shortage. So that backup just isn't there. So right now it's really important that we stay as self-sufficient as we can. That's typically how things go, but we've always known that we kind of had that fallback of calling somebody out of the area, and it's just not there. So if you've never donated, give it a try. If it's been a while, if you've been deferred in the past, there were a number of things that were rolled back in the last couple of years. Travel to Europe, travel to malaria areas, tattoo deferrals, things have been shortened significantly. So if you've been deferred in the past, give us a call, find out, you might be eligible again.
Is your blood mobile going to be in Fortuna anytime soon? I know you were here last week. You usually like to hang out at Ray's, I think.
Front of me, but of course, checking my schedule here at nccbb.org. Let's see, we will be in. We'll be at Ray's next Thursday, or this Thursday, the 3rd.
Okay, Thursday the 10th. Does that sound right?
3rd.
Oh, that's this Thursday. So
Yeah,
that's this Thursday. I know. We're changing months. It's confusing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Anybody else have any announcements they'd like to make? Alrighty. Well, then I will let Julie Benbow introduce herself. She's with the Humboldt County Visitors Bureau.
Thank you, Bailey. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Renee, for following up. I do know some of you. I am looking forward to meeting you all in person one day. Who knows when that will be. My name is Julie Benbow. I'm the head of the Humboldt County Visitors Bureau, and I have nothing to do with the Benbow Inn, just so that you all know. I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but actually what I would like to do is I'm going to tell you about a little update on tourism over the past 2 years, and then tell you the new direction for the Bureau, and hopefully get some feedback and maybe some ideas from you. The last 2 years has definitely been a challenge, but in a lot of ways. Normally, according to Dean Runyon, who does the financial reports for all the county tourism, in 2019, travel spending in Humboldt County was $487 million, which is almost $500 million. It netted for the county in the general fund $42.8 million in taxes. So up until 2019, tourism had been on the increase for the previous 10 years. and Humboldt County was up among the leaders for the rural counties, slightly behind Mendocino. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and two things happened. The normal leader for the travel impact in revenue is, believe it or not, food service. So that's everything: restaurants, coffee bars, fast food. And of course, during the pandemic, all that changed. What we have seen over the last couple of years, especially last year, was an increase in TOT. Accommodations have had the best year they've ever seen. Many of the bigger hotels were playing, some of the guests were essential workers, but the majority were people who wanted to get in their cars or RVs and go somewhere away from where they were living. They wanted to escape. And one of the things that you probably all know about marketing is it's a story that slowly builds on itself. So in the last 2 years, we've reaped the rewards of selling the redwoods and our pristine coastlines, you know, to everybody. And we saw the majority of over 80% of the traffic was by car, and it was from within 500 miles. But there was, especially in the first year in 2020, a lot of RVs came through the county. And so, you know, while we don't all love fast food, it was one way to keep our visitors and ourselves fed, but also, you know, some taxable money coming in. And so accommodations obviously have been the big one, not just really for the hotels, but also for the Airbnbs and the vacation rentals. And the county doesn't have very accurate data about the number we have. Some of them are registered with VRBO and Airbnb and CASA. But if they aren't, I mean, a lot of people, you know, just have a little unit and they do it. So we've no true data about the impact of that. But one of the things I think we did all see, and to some degree or another, all our communities were impacted, was we saw some of the cracks in our infrastructure. And I'll just give you a quick little example. A lot of the RVs and the people camping and a lot of the people who are on the road and buying fast food decided to throw their garbage on the side of the roads. And it was really awful along Samoa Boulevard and some of the other areas that weren't downtown. But it brought up very quickly the idea that we don't have enough garbage cans when you're walking around. You know, our consumer level has increased exponentially over the last 10 years. And it was very difficult to actually get dumpsters moved to places, and then who's going to empty them. And the national forests and the state parks also found this, and even though they closed down, people were still parking and dumping trash. And then we had the very adventurous younger people who decided they'd go camping for the first time in their lives. And when they weren't being rescued from a rock somewhere, or finding out that we don't have cell phone everywhere in the county, They weren't bringing their garbage out with them. So in response to this, and this was already something we were doing, the Bureau truly understands that no longer is tourism just the goal in itself, because the reality is that tourism contributes to building better destinations and experiences and communities for locals and visitors. So, you know, the new role of us, the Visitors Bureau, is aligning our marketing and management of tourism with community and economic development. So it's a shift away from just promoting a destination to building communities, with the belief that the quality of life for our residents, for you and I, means the quality of place for visitors. So what we've done is we've taken a made a very strong commitment to sustainable tourism. And the vision is that we will engage with all the different areas of the county and the different communities and find out what, from their points of view, from the boots on the ground, what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages of tourism? And try and not only have these conversations, but come up with the answer or some planning processes for the questions. If this is where we want to be in 5 years, how do we get there from where we are now? And we've never really had these conversations. One of the things that we notice and recognize is that they can become political. And we don't want these conversations to be driven by politics. We want them to be driven by each of our interests in sustaining strong communities that are healthy communities. Physically, mentally, emotionally, physically, and the health of our natural world. So that's where we're going forwards. If any of you, well, I've got the microphone, so I can do what I want. I'm going to give you a short description of, so sustainable tourism is happening in a couple of places in the world. In 2019, because we all use that year as a marker, Venice had 64 million tourists. 49,000 people live there. So when the pandemic hit, no longer were they getting the huge cruise liners, and they realized that they don't have a life, a quality of life during the seasons. So they changed what they're going to do. They actually banned 80% of the cruise lines of a certain size. But Hawaii went one step further and they said, one of the things that we've been ignoring are the Hawaiian people. And a luau is not actually very representative of how the native Hawaiians live. So they've come up with a whole sustainable tourism infrastructure, which actually engages the visitors in what's happening. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a couple of campaigns about how to be a gentle and respectful traveler and still have all fun and access to everything. And how our communities feel about wanting to interact with the visitors. So it's a big step forwards. We have moved from our offices on the corner of D to 422 First Street, which is the old HSU gallery space, and it's fabulous. It goes from First Street all the way through to the gazebo. We're going to be having displays of every part of the county. The national and state parks are going to have space here. All our different businesses, you know, the farmers and the chocolate and the cheese and all the things that visitors don't necessarily know about, but all the things that community members don't always know about. We're going to be doing some things with Shelter Cove and Willow Creek, because as we know, a lot of people don't get further than their Safeway or whatever store or bar they go to. And we're going to be facilitating some of these discussions about what the future of Humboldt looks like and how we can participate in problem solving on the ground floor, rather than expecting our civic leaders to make the right decisions, which they can't always do. So that's my little update. So we will be having, and we will be talking, you know, to Fortuna and Ferndale and Oric and all these places, and getting your input into how you want to be presented to the public and what your assets are. And if you don't have them, then helping you build them. We're going to have it to be somewhat interactive and bring ourselves kicking and screaming into the 21st century. And if I have my way, I will have a hand-made dugout canoe and one of the kinetic sculptures. But we're open to anything that you have, and it's going to be, we will do rotating displays so we can promote the Fortuna and the things you do in the rodeo, and Ferndale and the Playhouse and other things like that. So please ask me questions and tell me what you think.
All right, anybody have some questions? I'm gonna move us back to gallery view so I can see everybody. Go ahead, John.
On how the numbers break down between people who have Humboldt as a destination versus those tourists who are on their way through to somewhere else?
Oh, that's a very good question, John. So we don't actually know a lot of this information. There is some geo-tracking available. We know that we get a lot of people from the surrounding communities at different times of the year, like Sacramento and Chico and Redding when it's really hot. Also in 2021, a lot of people were doing the Pacific Coast Highway. Now, of course, we have the many more flights into ACV, and we know that people are coming for, you know, a long weekend or a week. So what we're trying to do, what our aim is to get people coming back. And we do this by,
yes, people have a sense of ownership of this is a place that they go, they'll take better care of it.
And also one of the things that we have is we do have an incredible variety of experiences other than just the redwoods. You know, not everybody wants to get in a kayak, but a lot of people would love to sit on the bay at a restaurant and watch the sun go down and have delicious oysters and fish. Of course, we have wonderful live theatre. and music and festivals. And these are the things that people do come back for. And the idea is to get them to come back because they wanted to do more and they didn't have time to do it.
So, Julie, I have a question. I know agritourism, I mean, that's one of the sort of buzzwords, and canna-tourism, which doesn't really apply to Fortuna, but as a county, as a whole, is that something that you guys are looking into exploring? Is that one of the sort of stakeholder conversations that you'll have? Obviously, you know, Fortuna is not as big of a tourism spot as, say, a Ferndale is with all of their farms, ranch, and dairy, et cetera. But is that something that's kind of on the horizon?
It is, and we very much promote the fact that we have a lot of organic farming and our beef is USDA prime, you know, it's the premier beef, but also the different locations. Because if you think about it, if you go up to Willow Creek in the summer and you have the peaches, and there are all these Clenendons, and it's actually the biggest thing, Renee, is to put all these stories in one place. So, you know, if you go on the Fortuna website, you can find out things to do. If you go on the Willow Creek or the Ferndale ones, but there's no comprehensive place. And what we're hoping that we will become eventually is the repository of this information. So if somebody comes in and they have very specific interests, we can pull up our database and tell them where there is a farm, where there is a dairy, you know, where there is an outdoor experience that they can have that's kid-friendly, you know, that they can walk to, that's handicap accessible. And there really isn't that one resource that we have left. And, you know, if we can get them to access our information, that's when we can also help educate them as to how to travel gently and leave no trace. Well, we don't want them to leave a trace, we want them to leave their money.
Yes. And speaking of money, so how is the Visitors Bureau funded, for those who don't know?
Badly. So I'm just going to put my next sentence in perspective. Mendocino County, who, by the way, only brought in $1 million more in 2019 into their general fund, receives $1.5 million for marketing the county a year. Currently, the Bureau receives $205,000. Right?
That 205,000 out of the
But I'm not
487 million, is that right? Is
Yes.
That oh,
yes. And wouldn't it be nice to have the power of advocacy? We will be changing. We're definitely moving to change some of these. But sorry, we're having our refrigerator delivered, and we're thrilled. Thank you. I'm just going to mute myself for a minute.
okay. Oh, you gotta love a Zoom. Never know what's gonna happen. Does anybody else have any questions while Julie's getting her refrigerator?
Okay, it's done. It's only a little one. Sorry about that.
Hey, Julie, I have a question.
Yes.
Bill from Las Coast.
Yes, Bill.
Hey,
Hi, Bill.
I thought you were talking about the outreach you guys are going to do to reach out to kind of our community to see what the future we want to build is. And I wondered if you had any plans to engage the youth in that. It seems like getting their buy-in, you know, even high school kids, and obviously the Cal Poly thing. Yeah, what's the plan there?
So that's a great comment, and the answer is yes. So We have a fairly close relationship with HSU and also College of the Redwoods. And what we will probably do when the space is big enough to hold public meetings. And one of the things we will be doing is public meetings and bringing people over to the space and asking them, you know, the questions about what they feel is missing in our lives here, but also to be able to have organizations and businesses and individuals come and give presentations to both the residents, the community, and the visitors. So yes, you know, I'm very much aware that there are definite, not only regions of the county, but members of our community who have never really had a voice, and that it's really important to engage everybody to some degree. And, you know, if they're willing to participate, fantastic. If they aren't interested, we'll still do it and be here and open to them when they're ready.
Thank you.
But if any of you are in town, in Eureka, come by. I'm in the front half of the building and Kristen, my office manager, is in the back half of the building, and you can probably hear a certain amount of echo as we slowly get our plans together. But you are very much part of the plans, and I'll be reaching out to you in Fortuna to have a meeting and see what we can develop.
So I know one of the more popular publications that has come out of Humboldt County has been the 101 Things to Do.
Yes.
Which is a huge, I mean, I call it like the Humboldt County Bible when it comes to activities. Of course, it's not everything there is to do, but it's such a great thing to hand to people. But we haven't seen them, you know, in over a year. I know you through the county, maybe even before your tenure when it was Tony Smithers, you know, had done a lot of printed brochures, like, you know, bikes and boating and,
yes,
you know, things like that. Are there any plans for like another round of publications to come out that we as a visitor center in Fortuna, the chamber office is the visitor center in Fortuna, we would love to have that kind of stuff to hand out to people when they come to the office or call us for information?
Well, we are just finalizing our 2022 map and guide, which you'll all definitely be receiving. And it, you know, it goes all over America. 101 Things to Do is owned by Greg Gardner. And one of the things that happened in March of 2020 was everybody pulled their brochures. They closed down and pulled their brochures. And I talk to Greg quite often, and funding those publications are actually based on advertising. So I'm not quite sure if he's going to be doing another Humboldt County one. But we, the Humboldt County Visitors Bureau, took a full page ad out in the Mendocino one, because that goes all over the place as well. And I don't want everybody to think that Mendocino's got everything, because they don't. So a little bit of sibling rivalry going on there.
Do you see an influx for tourism with the new Polytechnic being Cal Poly Humboldt? Do you see any trends that way?
Well, I definitely think it's going to make an impact because, as you know, and not that I have any personal experience about this, but kids go and check out their colleges with their parents. So we'll be working with Cal Poly on putting together packages for parents about what's available here. And also, you know, to Bill's point about getting the younger people, a lot of the kids who come here don't have transport. And this is one of the big things we found during COVID was you know, it's not easy to get around Humboldt County if you don't have a car or a bike. So I think there may be some more advocacy work done at the Board of Supervisors level and at the city and towns level about, you know, what the impact will be on a positive way, especially if we could hook up with some of these federal grants for electric buses and electric transportation. And they give you huge grants to get it going. So the other thing is that, you know, when graduation comes, that's one of the biggest weekends of the year for parents coming up here and parents bringing family and friends. And this comes back to us wanting them to come and visit often, but also wanting our graduates to stay here and create lives and careers. So, you know, it's all a big, you know, spider's web, really.
Great. Thank you, Julie. Any final questions before we let everybody go?
You know, I'm going to put, if it's all right with you, I can't find the chat. Oh, yes, I can. It's right there under the word chat. I'm going to put my email address in here, and please reach out to me. I know that some of you already have my information, but I'd love to talk to you about how we can make this happen together. And I will definitely be in touch with Bill again and Ben about, you know, the way we learn news these days is very different than the old days. And as much as everybody thinks they do it on their phone, they actually, a lot of people, me included, listen to the radio a lot. And not everybody reads Facebook. So we're hoping to develop some ways of communicating with all the different areas of the county in the way they need it, not how we think that they need it. So thank you, everybody. Nice to see you, Melissa. Good work.
Hi, Julie.
Okay.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you, everybody. Stay well, travel gently.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. We will see you next week with Cal Poly Humboldt and Connie Stewart. Maybe we'll get some tidbits from her too. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Enjoy your week. Groundhog Day is Wednesday, so however you vote, we'll see what Puxatawny Phil has to say. So, all right, everybody, thank you. See you next week.
Hi, thank you.
Bye.